Um, I want to talk about marriage today. I want to talk about marriage today. And I have thoughts to share. And I think I'm relatively qualified to speak on marriage. I've been married for 23 years. And I've only been with one person my whole life. My wife has only been with one person. Now, there's some Indian people in the audience, older Indian people. Which part of India are you from?
I'm from Compton.
You're from where?
Compton, California.
You're from Compton. You were born in Compton, California?
No, India, Gujarat.
You're Guju. And these are your parents?
No, they my friends.
I'm from Long Beach. I was born in Gujarat.
Also Gujarat. Which place?
My Patni.
Uh-huh. Your wife? But which place were you born?
She is also in Long Beach and she was born also in Gujarat.
You don't understand my question. Which place in Gujarat were you born?
Bardoli.
Baroda?
Bardoli.
Uh-huh.
Near Surat.
Near Surat.
Right.
And you?
I was born in Bangladesh.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah, but I used to live in Ahmedabad.
I've been to Surat. I've been to Ahmedabad. Both places. You were married? The young man. You're married? How long you been married?
Well, I've been married for a few years, but now I'm single.
Now you're single.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you move to Compton. How long have you been married, sir?
Married for
No, this one.
5 years.
56 years.
56 years. Yeah. He's been married 56 years. He's got like 2.5 times the time in that I have. I think I got more time in than anybody else in the room being married, but he has more than double the time in at marriage than me. The divorce rate in India is less than 1%. The divorce rate in the US is around 50%. The divorce rate in India 25 years ago, when I was living in India, 30 years ago when I was living in India, the divorce rate then was 1/20th of 1%. So they have a huge problem with divorce in India. The rate of divorce has gone from 1/20th of 1% to 1%. Meanwhile, in the US, divorce rates are around 50%. And if you get married a second time, your chance of getting divorced go up to 66%. If you get married a third time, they go up to 75%. It's very common, even today in India, that you meet somebody, they never had a girlfriend or a boyfriend. They met one person in their life. They got married, and they're married until the day they die. They never cheat. Their spouse never cheats. It's set in stone. It's almost like you carve it into a stone with a chisel. That's how people take their marital vows. It's so different from in the West, how people take their marital vows. Now, most of you, my guess is most of you are vegetarian. Raise your hand if you're vegetarian. See? Most of you are vegetarian. The way Indian people look at divorce culturally is the way you look at somebody that eats meat. For most people in our tribe, if you eat meat, you haven't quite become a human being yet. You may be a nice person, but you can't be nice deeply because you're causing unnecessary suffering and torture to living entities that feel pain just like you do. Imagine you met somebody who was very nice, but then they went home and they tortured people. You follow? Now you'd say, well, if they're torturing humans, it's a different thing. Well, that's true. Torturing human beings does seem to be a different thing. But from the point of view of feeling pain, you know what the difference is between human beings and animals? Like mammals? You know what it is? It's zero difference. They have the same nociceptors and C neuron fibers, and they feel pain just like we do. So from the purpose of causing unnecessary pain, imagine you met somebody who was really nice, but every night they went home and they tortured people. No matter how nice they were to you, you'd have your doubts about their integrity, their kindness, their lack of cruelty, their sweetness. People don't realize this. They think that being a vegetarian is necessarily just a lifestyle choice. Like, I like Chinese food, you like Mexican food, and I like to eat healthy, but you like a little bit of junk food. I like to do Pilates, but you like to do yoga. It's not really like that. It's not really like that. Because your lifestyle choice affects other people. Imagine if your lifestyle choice of smoking destined your children to getting cancer. Then your choice to smoke wasn't merely a lifestyle choice, it was also the condemnation of your innocent children to death. So there might be lifestyle choices that merely affect you, and then you could compare them to other lifestyle choices. But as long as they just affect you, it's just a lifestyle choice. What's going on out there?
Really loud music with really bad song.
You already go.
Do what? Start a fight in the street? No, I don't think it's a good idea. You go out and get loca, con la gente.
I was serious too.
Yeah, don't do that. We'll just tolerate. It's fine. It's just like, it doesn't even sound like music. It sounds like someone's like using a very poorly designed hydraulic press, right? Like, anyway, or like a really big person is passing wind, something like that, like a giant is passing wind. I'll recover. I'll figure it out. It's taking me a second. If your lifestyle choice starts to affect those people around you, then it's not just your pursuit of happiness, which is, what do I want to say, immortalized and validated in the U.S. Constitution. It starts to become that your pursuit of happiness affects the life and liberty of other people. At the point when your pursuit of happiness affects the life and liberty of others, you no longer have a right to unfettered happiness. There's a rule there. Life and liberty are inviolable. Your pursuit of happiness is secondary. They're all endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, such as the right to liberty, the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. You guys know your Constitution? Right? So not all three of those are weighted equally. For instance, there are sound ordinances. And if the police ever showed up in Long Beach, which they don't, these people have definitely broken the noise ordinance for this time of night. Of course, we probably will too when we do kirtan in a few minutes. So we don't necessarily want to rock the boat. If we were in Laguna Beach, where I reside, and you were to call about this, SWAT would descend on the area with a helicopter.
So true.
The entire police force would show up. Hundreds of police officers in a tiny little town. When your lifestyle causes unnecessary pain to other people, it's not a lifestyle anymore. It's an ethical decision. And it has to be defendable as such. Did you guys follow this? So for most Hare Krishna people, we view meat eaters as being almost like ignorant subhumans who haven't quite figured out the basics of integrity and ethics. Gandhi said, at some point in your evolution, you have to realize that eating meat is wrong. At some point, you have to think it through and realize, well, I have a dog, and if somebody starts torturing my dog, I get bent out of shape. But the animals I eat are just as sophisticated as my dog or my cat. So how do I arbitrarily decide these animals have rights, but then these ones don't? And they feel pain exactly like human beings do. And so how do I justify my decision that for the pleasure of my tongue, I'm willing to cause torture? Animals in the food industry are tortured. Indian people culturally view divorce in the same way. Now, I don't think divorce is as bad as eating meat. However, from a sociological and cultural perspective, for Indian people, if you are divorced, you're also kind of like a subhuman. Like there's something wrong with you. You're a fundamentally diseased person. Because 99.x% of the population, there's no word for divorce in Sanskrit. There's no concept. Think about that one. If you look at the Dharma Shastras, if you look at the Manava Dharma Shastra, also known as the Manu Samhita, it has all sorts of crazy stuff in it. Little micro pedantic rules. But there's no concept even of divorce. It doesn't even exist as an idea. They have all sorts of rules about eating meat and like when it can be done and what kind of animals can be eaten and what kind of animals can't be eaten. They even deal with that. But there's no even concept of divorce. There is no word in the Sanskrit language for divorce. How wild is that? And in the legal texts of ancient India, it doesn't exist. If you get divorced, your children are way more likely to wind up in jail. They're way more likely to overdose. They're way more likely to suffer from clinical depression. They're way more likely to commit suicide. They're way more likely to be unemployed. They're way more likely to themselves be divorced. They're way more likely to get raped. They're way more likely to get murdered. They're way more likely to live below the poverty level. They're way more likely to be addicted to drugs. They're way more likely to overdose. Did you know this? The statistics are staggering and unequivocal that when you divorce, you stack the deck against your children. So this idea that divorce is something that just affects you and the other person who've consensually entered into a contract isn't actually true, because it tortures a bunch of innocent kids, namely your own. We have an ethic in this country. The ethic is that you should do what feels good. It might be called personal hedonic utilitarianism. You should do whatever makes you feel good. It's a fancy way of saying the same thing. As an ethical position. Hedonic means pleasurable, and personal means for you, and utilitarianism means whichever gives that result. We also have a rugged individualism in most of the Western world. When I say the Western world, I mean most of Europe, including a large majority of Russia, the former USSR countries, not all of them, but a large majority of them, and then Western Europe and the US. We export our culture all over the world through movies and TV shows and music, our value system. And so it does affect the rest of the world. But if you look at divorce rates in Western Europe and you compare them to divorce rates in, let's say, Africa, for instance, or in Asia, or in India, it's just like a precipitous drop when you look at the rest of the world, even Latin America for that reason. Because most of those places which have old world cultures, which have their pluses and minuses, it's not that old things are necessarily good. Slavery's old, doesn't make it good. You know when the last country outlawed slavery? Yeah, in 2007. Who said that? Yeah. Ah, dude. I was about to be like, you are so cool. Okay. Huh? So, slavery is an old idea that just recently was outlawed in Northwest Africa, as insane as that sounds. But just because something's old doesn't mean it's good. But some old ideas are kind of cool. Familism is an old idea. Familism is different than the selfish, hedonic utilitarianism in that you believe that what is right and what is good and what is worth pursuing is what benefits your people. I have a friend. He's from Gujarat. Not these friends. He's probably the same age as the gentleman here. What is your good name, sir?
85.
One more time?
85. 85. What name?
Bhavata Nam Kim. What is your name?
Govinda.
Govind.
Govinda.
Okay. His name is Govind. So, his name is also Govind. And he's 85. My friend, who's Gujarati, is probably maybe 79 or 80. He's a little bit younger than you. His name is Trivedi. He's from a Brahmin family. Trivedi. It's a big Brahmin name. Dvivedi means you studied the two Vedas. Trivedi means you studied the three Vedas. Chaturvedi means you studied the four Vedas. These are traditional names for Brahmanas, for priests. He's a priest. He's from a very famous family of Jyotishes. He wanted to marry a girl that he saw in college. He thought, oh, she's beautiful. I want to marry her. Never spoke to her. Told his father, maybe I can marry that girl. His father said, no, I have some other girl picked out for you. He said, okay. He married the other girl. He told me personally, I did not find her so attractive. I did not like her so much. He told me this personally. He was married for 50 years. Never cheated, never divorced, had a family, raised his family, had grandchildren, had great-grandchildren. I said to him, did you ever regret marrying somebody that you were not particularly attracted to? And he said, no. And I said, why not? And he said, because it made my father happy. That's the essence of familism. The benefit and desires of your parents and your children, and sometimes your tribe or your community, are so important in your life that you make decisions based on what benefits them, what makes them happy, and your happiness comes from their happiness. We feel like this is fundamentally wrong in the U.S. We have what's called a rugged individualist ethic. where you should do whatever you want to do. And anybody who doesn't, like for instance, I became a Hare Krishna. I joined a monastery when I was 18 years old. I moved to India where I lived for almost 10 years. I was often asked by people in India, did your parents let you do that? Were they disturbed you did that? And my answer was like, no, but if they were, I don't care. I did what I want to do. My family will support me. And if they don't, it's not going to affect my decision one iota. That's rugged individualism. I'm not unusual. I'm your average American. I mean, my mom always told me I was special. But for the purpose of this discussion, I think that my ethos was quite similar to everybody else's. Of course, then I joined a crazy cult, and now like the pleasure of my elders is such that I like would do anything for my elders and for my tradition, including radically change my life. So it's like I dropped out, did my own thing, but then it made me squarer than the square and more committed and old school than like anybody else on the street. I don't see any reason why familism is a worse ethical model to embrace. In fact, I think there's tremendous value in it because you're not led astray by your wants and desires. You have things which check and regulate you, almost like a check and balance system. People who are much older than you, who are also themselves selfless and serve their elders and their family, and all of you together create a tribe of selflessness where you care for one another, which is kind of like the essence of community, the essence of a good check and balance system. And it's really what love is all about. Anyway, what's that noise? There was some sound. Somebody's phone is regularly making a sound. If it's yours, you can there's a little button on the side of it normally. You just turn it off. It's easy. I turn my phone off when I come in, most of the time. Once in a while it rings while I'm giving class and I'm embarrassed, and then I turn it off. I'm not perfect. I think familism is a superior model. I think it creates a better safety net. It also gets rid of things like divorce, because everybody knows how bad it is for the family, and so people are told to tough it out, figure it out, and make it work. I don't know that a life of wanton indulgence where you do, that was the sound that I've been hearing over and over again. Whose phone is that? I don't know what you're mumbling.
I was like, it might sound like a watch.
Might sound like a watch. I don't know why you would tell her that and not me. I was the one asking the question. Anyway, we're going to move along. If it's your watch or your phone, if you could just turn it off, that'd be great. Otherwise, we're cool. We'll figure it out. You need to use the bathroom? Up to there and then down the hall. She'll show you where it is. I think familism is a better model. I think selflessness is a better model. Even though I was raised in this my way or the highway, and whatever I want is the right thing to do, I don't think it's actually a good way to live. It's incredibly selfish. It's incredibly indulgent. And it usually ends up meaning that you cause a tremendous amount of people unnecessary pain because of your unwillingness to do the right thing, because it doesn't happen to correspond with what you like. And just what you like isn't necessarily right. There's also things people might like that aren't good for them. Exercise is, generally speaking, at least at the beginning, not fun. Eating a healthy diet, at least sometimes, is not fun. Eating in moderation is sometimes not fun. Not taking drugs is sometimes not fun. Not drinking is sometimes not fun. Not cheating somebody is sometimes not fun. There's all sorts of austerities that we're forced to follow because we have laws against going against them. So just because you want to do something doesn't make it right. Anyway, to get back on track. And I wanted to kind of flesh out what I think are two competing ethical theories, namely, do whatever you want to do and do what's good for your community. I want Western statistics versus Eastern show some validity in the idea that your marital situation affects your downline tremendously. Show the value in worrying about your downline and show you the logic behind that. Do you guys follow that? Okay. Marriage for human beings is unnatural. Know why it's unnatural? Because we're social mammals. You know how many social mammals are monogamous for life? 0, except for human beings. Penguins aren't social mammals. I know. I read your mind, and I'm correcting you. You can wonder about that after class. Social mammals aren't made to be monogamous. Especially not social mammals that are males. Our biology, males' biology, is not created for monogamy. Females have to carry children. They lactate, they carry children. We could say men and women are equal, but women have to menstruate, ovulate, carry children, birth children, and lactate. It's a huge, massive responsibility. No matter how much we want to make society equal, we can't change that one. Men are also blessed or cursed with significantly more upper body strength than women. Lower body strength, the statistics aren't quite so substantial, but for upper body strength, because women lactate, so their bodies are built for lactation with a much higher degree of natural fat. Men have, whose phone is that?
Oh, it's a sugar mine.
Then it's okay. No problem. Leave it. No problem. Good. Sugar monitor. Good. Excellent. Now I know where it's from. I feel peaceful. I was thinking it was one of you rascals, but now that I know it's my elder, I'm not disturbed anymore. What was the point I was making?
Upper body strength.
Men have so much upper body strength, so we get to go to war. 94% of workplace deaths, men. 78% of suicides, men. 99.999% of deaths in war, men. There's a price we pay for that too. Men are biologically designed to protect. Can women get yoked out and be stronger than men? For sure they can. Can men lactate and carry children? No, they can't, so there's still a difference. social mammals aren't meant to be monogamous. That means that human society's tendency towards marriage is artificial and out of sync with our basic biology. Did you guys follow that? So what's the value in it? Human beings are unique. We wear clothes. We build houses. We cook our food. We fly in airplanes and drive in cars. We have recursive language. We write books and build temples, churches. We do all sorts of stuff that no other animal on the planet does. We're special. We have huge brains, and those brains are made for thinking. We have a massive brain-to-body ratio that no other animal has. We were designed to think. You look at a tiger, you see what it was designed to do. You look at us, you see what we were designed to do. We were designed to think. And marriage helps you think. I have a quote from Srila Prabhupada that was written about 60 years ago. This is a quote from a commentary he wrote on an ancient Sanskrit text, which is thousands of years ago. We're going to go into it in a little bit of detail. One should hear with rapt attention from the real person. And then they can at once realize the presence of Krishna in every page of this book. The secret of knowing the Bhagavat, this text, this ancient Sanskrit text, is mentioned here. No one can give rapt attention. You should hear with rapt attention. If you hear with rapt attention from the right source, you'll find Krishna in the texts of this ancient manuscript. You'll see God in a literary incarnation. You'll commune with the deity that is available in this sacred text. It's a big claim. No one can give rapt attention who's not pure in mind. You can't focus utterly on something if your mind is not purified. No one can be pure in mind who's not pure in action. No one can be pure in action who's not pure in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. This is Prabhupada's statement. No one can be pure, no one can listen with rapt attention who doesn't have a pure mind. We were accused of brainwashing people in the 70s. That actually made it all the way to the New York Supreme Court. Somehow or other, even in the 70s, if you weren't a Christian, you were like guilty of being called a cult, even if your religion was court. It's wild, right? Of course, you can also remember that in the 60s, we didn't have civil rights. And there was no such thing as sexual harassment until the 80s. And homosexuality was outlawed in this country until 1971, I believe. Women didn't have the right to vote 100 years ago. Think about how crazy that one is. Half our population was not allowed to take part in the process of governance that's basic to a republic, which means for the people and by the people, republic. And 150 years ago, we thought it was okay to own people. So when we look at this country and the way we've treated our fellow human beings, we have a pretty abysmal track record. We're just sort of becoming humans ourselves. Anyway, Prabhupada made a comment that they're accusing us of washing their brain. They said, but they should be grateful to us. Your brain is very dirty, and we're washing it and making it clean. Normally you pay to wash your car or your clothing, but we're washing your brain for free. You should appreciate us. Anyway, we won the case, but Prabhupada's reaction to the accusation of brainwashing, I thought, was just priceless. Prabhupada also one time saw an advertisement for Cool cigarettes, and he said, what is this? They're breathing fire, but they're calling it cool. His reaction to, advertising, to seeing advertising. If you want to really be able to hear with rapt attention and allow for a transmission of sacred knowledge to occur, your mind has to be pure. Which requires your action to be pure. If you're doing something all the time, you'll end up thinking about it. If you drink all the time, you'll end up thinking about drinking. Your mind will follow what your body does. If you want to be pure in action, you have to take our basic animalistic propensities. Animals operate on instinct. If you see an animal raping another animal, do you think like that evil animal should be put into jail? You don't. You might separate them. But that's about it. You're at the park. One dog tries to hump another dog, and you might kick it or hit it with a stick or shout at it to get it. But nobody thinks that's an immoral animal. Because animals operate on instinct. I have animals. I have cows. We take care of cows. And when mother and daughter cows go into heat, you know what they do? They mount each other. Like the mother will mount the daughter, or the daughter will mount the mother. If there's no male around, one of them takes the role of the male, and they mount each other. It's just, just what they do. Nobody thinks that's incestuous or anything like that. It's understood that animals are ruled by instinct, ruled by their biology. You follow? What separates human beings from animals is when we don't get ruled by to think about the nature of reality. And we take a step back and we control our animal in defending and mating. In a lot of ways, civilization is an attempt to regulate these propensities on behalf of society using something called social contract theory, which basically is that if you're born in the U.S., you have to pay taxes. Do you get to choose whether you want to pay taxes or not? You don't. Do you have to follow the laws of let's say, when you drive? Yes, you do. Do you have to, follow a code of conduct of not assaulting people? Yes, you do. Do you get to choose? I don't want to follow those rules. Do you get to choose that? You don't. That's called social contract theory. You're born into a place, the government provides you with streets and free dental care or whatever they provide you with. They have a whole structure that you get. You don't have to ask for it. It's automatically given to you. And then certain of your rights are taken away, and you pay with certain of your freedoms for other freedoms to be guaranteed. That's called social contract theory. It's been around forever, since Hannibal's time, since the dawn of civilization. It was formally articulated by a guy named John Locke a few centuries ago. And really, it's all over the U.S. Constitution. It's all over our entire legal system. So, human beings stop being animals when we start to regulate these things. And the one we're talking about today is sex. Serious devotees in our tradition. And the thing is, we don't really have a hard line of division between priests and congregation. So we encourage all of our congregation to become priests. In other words, we encourage our congregation to follow the same lifestyle our priests do. You follow this? Serious Hare Krishna devotees, in addition to being vegetarian or vegan, in addition to being sober, in addition to not gambling, in addition to those three rules, serious Hare Krishna devotees are either A, celibate, or B, married. Monogamy within marriage. Now, if people show up at our temple, we don't care what you do. You can do whatever you want to do. You want to come here and you want to go to In-N-Out after you eat here with us, we're cool with that. She did that one time. Now she's an initiated priest, but people do whatever. And we're cool with it. We don't make a big deal out of it. That's what you get, dude. I've been waiting years to get you back for that. We don't judge people. So many of it, we don't care. No big deal. You got boyfriends or girlfriends or whatever, we don't make a big deal. Or you're sleeping around, we don't care. No big deal. We don't judge. Being sober is pretty obvious, unless you're just incredibly immature. Not eating meat is also pretty easy to articulate the reasons for that, and I even gave you a brief version of it. I can certainly give a more elaborate version of our argument. Next one is rough on people. You want to close?
Yeah.
The draft is bothering? Please close. No problem. He will do it. No problem. We'll close. Of course. Kshama. So, the sex one is harder for people to wrap their heads around. That's the one we're going to talk about. Marriage is sex. It's actually it's a sexual contract between two people. Generally speaking, in this country, infidelity in most states is grounds for divorce. Some states have revised that language, but I'd say probably in 35 of the 50 states, that language is still there on the books. Non-performance of spousal duties. This is still the case in 2021. What to speak of the way marriage has been conceived of for thousands of years in every corner of the globe. Marriage is an attempt to regulate sex. Most people have a hard time wrapping their heads around how strict our requirements are for sex. Strict Hare Krishna devotees don't even masturbate. When we say celibate, we actually mean fully celibate. If you want to get married, if you want to have sex, you have to find somebody and then marry them. Also, super strict Hare Krishna devotees don't even believe in premarital sex. Think about how insane that is. Who does that in this day and age? Well, they did. They just got married. They followed our rules strictly until the day they got married. I don't think that they're unusual. I know that they're red-blooded, regular old mammals. But they made a decision to respect our tradition and set an example for the people that they care for. They did a quick engagement, and they made it work. Far out, right? she's like a executive for a Fortune 50 company. She's in charge of 300 plus employees. They're like out in the world, doing stuff, making moves. He's a captain in the military. They're fully functioning members of society. Successful, respectable, normal American people. And somehow or other they managed to do this. I was completely celibate for 9.5 years until I got married. Now I've been married 23 years. Never fallen down from my vows, never been unfaithful. It can be done. If you don't do it, no problem. If you're just like coming here for the first time, it's like, no problem. Do whatever you want to do. It's totally cool. We're in ecstasy that you stopped by. And what you can get out of this conversation is you can understand something about old world cultures and the logic behind them. And you can almost be like, you go to like the zoo and you like see like animals in their habitat. So you can, from a sociological point of view, through embedding, you can like study a culture. And you know, I'm the animal in the cage, and you can like in a safari type environment, you can watch my movements and you can learn something about, you know, a foreign culture. Seriously. And you can see how we thought it through and why people do the wacky things they do. If you're part of our tribe, then this class is intended to strengthen your resolve and give you some empowerment and some fuel and some depth and some power to really move forward in your life in a powerful, regulated way that's going to get you what you want. You know what I want to do in this life? I want to see Krishna. That's what I want to do. That's the most important thing in the world to me. That's my goal, which I've been pursuing assiduously 7 days a week, 365 days a year for the last 33 years of my life, since I was a kid. I'm 48, since I was 16. I take no days off. I follow my vows I took 30 years ago, every single day. They are my life. I pray for 2 hours a day. I follow our rules of what I don't do. I follow our rules of what I do. I live the life of a priest. It's who I am. It's what I'm about. They're my values now. They were given to me by others, but I made them my own. They're in my bones now. I'll do them every day for the rest of my life until the day I die. And miracles have happened in my life as a result of that commitment. Yeah. Miracles have happened in my life. I've seen things that if I died today, my life would have been worthwhile because of the things I've been able to witness and be a part of and experience in relation to divinity. I have no regrets. I'm satisfied. I've got miles to go before I'm done. But my life is already successful. I've never regretted for a single moment following my vows and being chaste and having integrity. I spend most of my time counseling people who are filled with regret and remorse for having dropped theirs. Regret and remorse aren't bad. When good people make mistakes, they should feel regret. It chastens you, makes you not make the same mistake again. Remorse isn't a bad emotion. It's a natural, healthy reaction to making a mistake. If you want your mind to be clear, your actions have to be on. If you want your actions to be on, you got to not be a victim to your passions. And what's the primary passion that victimizes everybody? Sex. The desire to scratch that itch plagues people. It rivets you to your body. It makes you dependent on your body. It makes you addicted to the powerful neurotransmitters which are released by your brain upon orgasm. Sex fundamentally links you to your physical body and makes you dependent on your body for pleasure. Because oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, you get massive hits. It's your body's natural intoxicant. In fact, when you take drugs, those same neurotransmitters are a huge part of the high you experience when you take drugs like cocaine or heroin. They're a huge part of the addictive nature of hard drugs. They leave you in a depleted state, and you crave that neurotransmitter hit as much as you crave the drug. You think you crave the drug, but what you really crave is a neurotransmitter hit. You follow? Sex is your body's own way to intoxicate itself, and it's there because people would not make babies if you didn't get something on the front end. Because it's a lot of work. Finding somebody that you're attracted to, that you're compatible with, who has integrity. And by the act of committing to just one and making that a lifetime commitment, you stop those intoxicating effects from ravaging your life and ruining it by making you run here and there looking for external happiness outside yourself forever. The act of committing to one person forces you to take what normally is something we have in common with the animals, and it transforms it into something which leads to depth and a relationship and something which transcends mere sex and enjoyment. Did you follow that? Because if you get married and you commit to somebody for a lifetime, there will be times when it's not fun to be with that person. There'll be times when it's actually downright difficult to be with that person. But by having made that commitment and squaring that away, you then say, my sex life is not just about my own pleasure. It's about something bigger. And you start to link it to a bigger cause in your life, something bigger than yourself. And you're no longer just selfishly pursuing your own happiness. You're a part of something bigger than yourself. You follow this? There's actually a surgical reason why marriage is valuable. It forces you to be a part of something bigger than yourself. It forces you not to be a victim of your senses. So even though you're intoxicated by your senses, even though you participate in the sexual act by procreating, by having a family, by being committed to one person for the rest of your life and growing old with them, you stop sensuality and materialism from becoming your primary motivating factor in life. You hear people, man, oh, we grew apart, oh, the thrill is gone, oh, I just wasn't feeling it anymore. Yeah, because you're a total selfish jerk. And as soon as it stopped making you happy, you then crucified everybody and did what you thought was going to make you happy. You follow? At the expense of everybody else. A lifetime of marriage stops that in its tracks. You can still interface. You can still feed the beast, so to speak. But you can't do it without limit. And that forces you to see the bigger picture, to be a part of something bigger than yourself, and it regulates you enough that your actions can start to become purified. Your mind can start to realize there's something else going on that's bigger. You can start to devote yourself to that thing, and you can start to hear the message of divinity with rapt attention, which means you can start to realize that message and make it your own. It's not just some Victorian thing like, you're going to go to hell or some bad things going to happen. Most of the rules and regulations of religions, it's like there's good and bad. You go to heaven or hell and you're going to be punished or rewarded. It's not like that. If you actually want to see Krishna, if you actually want to experience transcendence, if you actually want to transcend this world, if you want to fulfill the deepest purpose of existence, if you want to fully utilize your incredible powers of consciousness to transcend this world, you have to regulate your body. And the one that nobody can deal with is sex. And so in a cultured group, they button this stuff up. Not just so they don't go to hell like in our Western tradition, but so you can live and breathe and spread your wings and fly and not be held back and not be tied down and not be anchored to this world such that you can never break free. So many of you are celibate. So many of you are monogamous. So many of you have made incredible advancement in this regard that you told me, so many of you have told me I could never do that. And now you're like, actually, I'm doing that successfully. For like 6 months, a year, for a decade. This stuff works. And it frees you up to spread your wings. It forces you to live a more refined life. It forces you to sober up and stop taking intoxicants in the form of oxytocin and serotonin and dopamine. And it opens you up to really stretching out, really spreading your wings and touching something higher. This is why we believe in marriage. You find somebody that you're reasonably compatible with, that you're attracted to. You find somebody that's faithful, that's good. You make a move. You make them your soulmate by that commitment. And then you pursue something bigger than yourself, and you make that the goal of your life. I'm in love with Krishna. Nothing is more important to me. I fell in love with this idea that you could embrace the divine. And I thought, sign me up. When I was a kid, every day I thank my lucky stars I made that good decision. And I realized how blessed I was to have that bequeathed to me, given to me, revealed to me, showed to me, shoved down my throat. I had people take their time and energy to force me to see a bigger picture enough that I was able to break free from my conditioning. It's an amazing phenomenon, but sometimes regulation is required to achieve freedom. We have this romantic notion that freedom should just be the ability to do anything at any time. But it's not true. That just binds you to your body. If you drink alcohol, for instance, you become addicted to the alcohol, so your free will to choose to drink alcohol takes away your free will to do what you want to do, because you start to become addicted to it and you can't get away from it. You have to live near a gas station or a grocery store so you can always pick it up, or a bar, and it starts to define your life. The same thing with sex, the same thing with drugs, the same thing with food. It's an amazing feature of reality, but if you truly want to be free, you have to regulate your passions. You have to regulate your appetites. Doesn't mean you have to cut them off completely. We're in these bodies. We have to eat something, sleep, have a family potentially. We have to do something to keep body and soul together, just to live in this world. But our life should be about more than that. And when you look deeply at the regulations we follow, you'll find a surgical, logical, well thought out, deep, profound, universal attempt to contend with our animal nature such that we can use our incredible God-given gifts of the power of thought to reach out and touch the sky. That's why marriage is important. Okay, if you join us on Instagram, thank you very, very much. If you guys are on Facebook or Zoom with us, hang out for a quick second. We're going to get a little